Hello, my name is Sydney Hopkins, and today I will be speaking to you about human trafficking, mostly in the United States, and what you can do to look out for it and how to be more aware, and just a few facts on it that you may not know. It's one of those things that you don't think could happen to you until it does happen to you, so it's always better to know more information than you think you might need to know, so you can be prepared if anything ever comes up. So I won't be the only one in this video. There will also be Lisa Bolton from the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking and Police Officer Mike Ford from Arkansas. A few facts about human trafficking just to start so you know a little bit more about what it is. There are an estimated 21 million people forced into human trafficking worldwide, and that can be in many forms, whether it's sex trafficking, where people take you and pretty much traffic you for sex. Or there are people that are trafficked for human labor. So they'll be trafficked and they'll have to work long hours doing hard work for no pay or small amounts of pay. On the more labor side of human trafficking, there's actually $150.2 million generated through human trafficking through labor. So those people who are trafficking people to make products for them and make products for them for little to no money, they're making over $150.2 million off of other people. So yeah. And then on the more sex side of human trafficking, it's actually it's the most prevalent form of trafficking in the United States. So there is human trafficking through labor in the United States as well, but there is more sex trafficking than there is labor trafficking, which is obviously awful to think about. It's sad to think that there are still people like this that will exploit women for money or personal gain. Women are often traded on the dark web, so I don't know if you've ever been on the dark web. I haven't. I do not mess with that stuff, but you literally take a picture of a woman, send it to someone, write them a check, and then that person is theirs to do with what they want. It may seem like it only happens in some parts of the world, and maybe if you live in a small town or if you think you're safe somewhere, you may not, you probably still aren't. In the last year alone, there have been human trafficking reports in all 50 states across the U.S., so everywhere is a possibility. There are many different ways that you can help someone who you think may be being trafficked. Obviously, reach out to them and talk to the authorities if they disappear or if you think they may be taken away. There are a lot of things that you can look out for. Obviously, if it seems like someone's following you, or if you ever feel unsafe in a situation, it's probably not a situation that you should be in. People will often, it's mostly females and young girls that are trafficked because they seem more vulnerable and easy to target. So men will often come up to them and approach them and pretty much tell them that they'll give them everything they think they need, and then obviously just use them to get what they want. There are a lot of different ways to help stop human trafficking. You can support legislation in fighting human trafficking, so laws that are being put into place, definitely support that if you think that it's gonna benefit people, obviously. And then this one's kind of more specific, but there are obviously many brands that human traffickers, or for labor, that people being trafficked for labor, they're making products for very cheap and they are not being paid. So if you buy a ton of those products, then those people will bring more workers in that aren't being paid proper amounts and are being used for forced labor. So obviously just make sure the companies that you're shopping from, and I'm not saying companies do this, I'm just saying be careful, make sure that the sources are reliable and they aren't taking advantage of their workers and they aren't just pretty much using people to make their stuff. Some safety precautions you can take. Obviously, do not I know it's fun to tell everyone where you are all the time, but be careful with that. Make sure it's not just random people that know where you are. Um, if you are on social media, only allow people that you know to follow you or people that you trust. There's this thing where, like on Instagram, where if someone requests to follow you, you can see who follows them. So I usually say, like, if I don't know, like, if there aren't people that I know that are following them, then I'm not gonna have them follow me because I don't know who they are. Like, why would I do that? Um, Snapchat also, there's snap maps and all that stuff. I'm on ghost mode on Snapchat. I don't want people knowing where I am, obviously, because that could go south very easily. It's not just, oh, I'm going to go meet up with my friends. They're here. It could very easily be, oh, a trafficker sees that and they're like, oh, good target. We're going to go there. That's where she is. Also, I carry around pepper spray. I'm kind of like paranoid, so I carry around pepper spray. But it's also helpful if you ever do find yourself in a situation because hit them and run, duh. This is something my mom always tells me. If you ever parked somewhere and there's a big car or like a van parked next to you on your driver's side, get in on your passenger side. Always lock the doors when you're in your car. Don't really just sit around in your car like in an empty parking lot alone, obviously. I think it's just obvious stuff, like be cautious. And if you don't think you could defend yourself if you're ever in a situation, it's important that you do learn. In this video, there will be displays of how you could stop an attacker if someone were to come up to you. But obviously, it is always better to know like some stuff, like elbow neon, whatever you have to do to get out, run, yell for help, like anything. Literally just go crazy. If someone ever comes up to you and is like trying to grab you or anything, just yell and go crazy. And don't trust people just because you meet them on the internet or if you meet them in person and they seem super nice. Obviously that sounds bad, but if you have a bad idea about someone, I usually say go with your gut instinct. It's sad, but not everyone can be trusted nowadays, so just always take precaution when you're meeting new people or when you're alone. I'm not saying all people are bad, but I obviously can't say all people are good. Definitely better to travel in groups. If you're alone at night, I always call my mom, like when I walk to my car if I'm alone at night. Just if you're ever going somewhere and you're nervous or you think something could go wrong, make sure someone knows where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, like all that kind of stuff. And then obviously, if someone approaches you and is trying to offer you all these things, don't just fall for it. Don't assume that they're just being nice and just offering you all these things. They probably want something in return, which is awful, but it's kind of the way it goes. So don't just assume, oh, this person's really being nice, they agree with me. Like later in this video, you'll see that Ms. Bolton and Mr. Ford, obviously, or Officer Ford, say it also, but they'll often take the Romeo approach. So they'll come up to you, be really sweet, offer you all these things, offer to help you out, pay you. If you're upset about something, they'll take your side. Like they'll make it seem like everything you feel is valid, and they'll make you feel like everything's going to be okay. And then they'll take advantage of that and lure you in with false hope, and then you could be stuck in a situation. So, yeah, just be careful because it's a scary world out there, and once you're in, it's really hard to get out because it's hard to stop these people. They're smart. They're really smart people, honestly. And it's hard to track them down, and it's hard to get people back. So always just be on the lookout. And I'm not saying any of this to scare any of you. I hope this does really help some of you because I definitely learned a lot making this video, and I'm definitely more aware and more cautious, which is good. So just don't take it with a grain of salt, but don't let it freak you out. Just take what you learn and hopefully apply it, and just be careful.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Ford with Little Rock Police Department, and I'm here to talk to you about human trafficking and some safety tips you can give your teenagers.
Hey, my name is Lisa Bolton. I'm the Director of Youth Services with the Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking. The program that I work under is called Grow Free Tennessee. The reason that we have the different names is because we don't want anybody to feel labeled or feel that we're coming in and that we know their story automatically. So we have the Grow Free Tennessee so that we don't label clients that we work with right off the bat.
Human trafficking is one of the biggest issues across America, across this nation. I mean, it affects approximately 24 million people a year. It's not just sexual, so don't think that it's always something that's going to be used as a sexual exploitation. They can use you for labor, meaning hard labor where they could have you working 20 hours out the day and only 4 hours of sleep. So don't always think that because the trafficker, when you think of human trafficking, is sexual in nature. It could be for the forced labor.
So a little bit about human trafficking that you may not know. We work to bust down the myths of what people think human trafficking is. So a lot of people will think human trafficking is kidnapping. You know, someone is in their front yard playing, a little kid's in the front yard playing, and a predator comes up in a white van and snatches the kid off of the front lawn. And that is just not the reality of trafficking. Actually, to this day, the state of Tennessee has never had a human trafficking case that was kidnapping, because it's just not smart for a trafficker to do that. You may not think of it that way, but traffickers are actually really smart businessmen. This is a crime that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of energy, and traffickers are very smart about that because they don't want to go to jail. So traffickers will often use, and there's kind of two ways that this happens, but the majority of time it's kind of called the Romeo route or the intimate partner route. Basically, traffickers will lure young girls in, or girls and women in general, usually with a vulnerability that's more present than not, and they will convince them that they can meet every need that they have. So, you know, if a young girl says, I don't have a dad, I wish I had a dad, the trafficker will meet that need. If the young girl says, I don't have a place to live tonight, or a place to stay, or I'm hungry, or don't have clothes, the trafficker will meet that need. And he starts that by, and that's called the grooming process. So telling the girl that he loves her, he's there for her, will provide for her, be everything for her. And that's really just kind of a false front. He'll also start to get to know her as best he can, ask her all these questions, and he'll always relate to her. If she says, oh, you know, I've got the worst mom ever, then he'll be like, me too, we should hang out and talk about that. Or, you know, I was homeless for a bit, me too, we should get together and talk about that. So everything that young girl says, he is always saying me too, or like that he gets that. Now, you may have noticed that I'm saying him a lot for trafficker and her a lot for victim. That's the majority of the time, but we do encounter men who have been trafficked by men, men who have been trafficked by girls, girls who have been trafficked by women, women who have been trafficked by girls. It goes every which way, but the majority of the time it is a male as a trafficker, an older male, preying, not really preying, but taking advantage of a young girl. That's usually how that goes. So that's one way. Here in East Tennessee, we see a lot of what's called familial trafficking. That is where a family member may traffic their child either for drugs, shelter, money, rent, whatever that looks like. As long as there's some kind of exchange, a commercial exchange, that's what makes it human trafficking. So we have a lot of that in our rural counties. It's multifaceted. We really can't get into that, but I do encourage you to look more into familial trafficking because it is on the up and on the increase right now in East Tennessee. I currently serve more familial trafficking cases, serve individuals who've experienced that more than the intimate partner trafficking when it comes to youth.
The easiest ways for traffickers to gain the trust is through social media and the internet. And we know that plays a big role in our kids' lives, and some safety tips you can take back to your kids, or kids you can take back to your friends, is to know who you're talking to when you're on the internet. Don't accept everyone's friend request because they send you a request. Just because you know them on the internet doesn't mean you actually know that person. Make sure you don't give that person intimate details about you. One of the easiest ways that traffickers try to get that information is to start by trying to turn you against your parents. Someone always has something negative to say about your parents every time you're upset with them. Doesn't mean they care for you. That means they're trying to use you as a tool to gain your trust. And by gaining your trust, then you can end up a victim in human trafficking. Don't give intimate details, as I said before, so know who you're talking to. Don't disclose your location to that person. Never meet anyone that your parents can't meet. If your parents can't meet them first, that's a good indication that that person may be trying to use you or take advantage of you. Never tell everybody everywhere you're going. I know in the day of social media you want to say, okay, I'm at the mall. Well, if you go to the mall, make sure you're going with a group of people so you can always know that you're safe, and don't break away from that group of people.
In this part of the video, I'll be showing you some self-defense moves you can do if you're ever attacked. Okay. So first off, if you're grabbed from the front, then you can just knee them. And then if you're choked from the front, then grab their arm like this and then punch them back. And then if someone just runs up to you, either pepper spray them or yell. Then if someone grabs you from the back, turn and then punch.
The Community Coalition Against Human Trafficking does training, awareness events, and is the overarching organization. And then the Grow Free Tennessee is our direct service piece of what we do. So we work with adults and we work with minors. Our adult, we have a shelter right now with 4-bed facility. It is called the Emergency Receiving Center. Basically, it's 4 beds, and they can stay for about 30 days, and they can ask for an extension if they need that. And it just allows the women to get away from their trafficker into a safe place. And they get assigned a care coordinator who works diligently with them to help them get their own place, get on, SNAP benefits, help them access to medical care and things of that nature. When it comes to youth services, many times we are meeting these youth in their homes. We're either meeting in their foster home, we're meeting in their residential facility where they're living, or we're meeting them with their bio parents. Wherever they are, we follow them. We serve 33 counties, so as long as they are within range of the 33 counties, so that's anywhere from Chattanooga all the way up until Bristol, Tennessee is where we serve as the Community Coalition. If they cross over into Nashville or into Memphis, then we will refer them to our partner agencies through the TASA Alliance, which would be In Slavery, Tennessee, out in Nashville, and then Restore Core out in Memphis. Those are our partners, and we work with them very closely, and we trust them that if we were to transfer clients over to them, that they would be able to help them appropriately.
Human trafficking is something that, as a community and as a police department, we don't do enough of talking about. So I wanted to make sure that we get something out to our teenagers as some safety precautions where they can make sure that they're safe and they can give to their friends. I just want to tell you, I want to thank you for the time for listening to this and giving me an opportunity to give you a couple safety tips. If it's anybody that you know that's talking to somebody that they've only met on the internet and they don't want to meet their parents, maybe you need to have a conversation with them as a friend, as a relative, as a cousin, or whatever they are to you, and give them some safety tips and Google some safety tips on how to be safe while you're on the internet to prevent human trafficking. Thank you.
So that's a little bit about what human trafficking is and how it presents. And it's not what you would think it is. It's not the snatch and grab out of the front yard. It's more sinister than that. And it's more sneaky than that. And just remember that traffickers are smart businessmen. So they're going to do whatever it takes to keep business and to keep up with the demand. We have a large demand for cheap labor and cheap sex in our community. And as long as we have that, we will always have traffickers who are looking to fulfill that need and to make money off of that. So that's a little bit about what trafficking is and a little bit what the coalition does. If you have any more questions, please just let me know and I'd be happy to chat. Bye.